Welcome back to the You Heard podcast. I'm holding it down. Got a special guest right after the intro. My boy Jordan Canes from About the Fans. The man is a legend. He out here working, grinding, working a day job, working for About the Fans. I've known Jordan for a while through different iterations of a podcast. Always love talking to him, man. It's always a great time. He keeps me sane when I want to go too hard. So it's gonna be enjoyable, guys. All right, catch it on the backside.
Welcome to the You Heard podcast.
I'm hurt, dog.
Ben and Joe break down all things Miami Hurricanes football.
Don't ask me if I'm all right. Hell no.
From hot topics to pre- and post-game analysis.
Joaquin said dominate, and we not doing it.
You heard.
I put my heart in this, dog.
Jordan, man, welcome to the pod, man.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Dude, I am good. It's been too long since we've been able to chop it up. So thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Look, everybody, look, if they're watching this pod, they know who you are. Just remind them what you do and who you are, man, how they can follow you.
Yeah, so, as you said, kind of the main thing I've been doing lately is About the Fans. I'm actually wearing my hat is About the Fans. My T-shirt is, it's a Fours Up design, but it's made by About the Fans. So, that's kind of what I've been doing. We've been doing a little bit of media as well. We do a basketball show on YouTube called About the Buckets. But yeah, everyone check out About the Fans, aboutthefans.com. Find us on Twitter. That's going well. And then, people, may know me from Fours Up, or I did Cane Gang for a little bit with Derek Coe. All good stuff, man.
Yeah, man. Look, we've done a couple different podcasts, a couple of different episodes to different iterations of me constantly just podcasting. So I was like, man, I gotta eventually do an All Canes podcast, and I gotta have my boy Jordan on. We kind of chopped it up a little bit on the previous one about the Canes, but this one's gonna be All Canes the whole show, man.
Cool.
Look, I want to jump right into it, man. What were your expectations? Because we hadn't talked really, because I know we talked a little bit about like the Lane Mario debate on the old pod. So when we finally signed Mario going into it, like tell me what Jordan of December 21 was thinking going into this season.
So a few things, and when I say them at this point, they make a lot more sense than how I felt it, back in 2021, in the sense that, I looked at our schedule and, pretty weak schedule. I looked at how most of the teams in the ACC had significant coaching or quarterback changes, whether it was a coordinator, starting quarterback, head coach. My brain would probably freeze up, but it was more than half the teams. Virginia, Duke, Georgia Tech, Pitt, Clemson had a bunch of changes. Like all these teams had big changes. And so I was thinking like somebody has to finish second or first or third. And so I figured, why not us? We got the best coach out of all of them. We have the best quarterback out of all of them in Tyler Van Dyke. So I predicted 8.5 wins. My heart said 9 wins. I wanted to say 10 wins, but my heart said 9 wins.
Of course.
My head said, nah, just go, you got to hedge that a little bit. So go 8.5 wins. So I'm glad I did that. But then at the same time, one thing I pushed, whether it was on Fours Up during the offseason or on my Twitter, was one of Mario's flaw as a coach has always been Saturday, right? Like Mario is not a great Saturday coach. He never has been. And that was something that I repeatedly talked about. Like that is his weakness. And we saw it, and whether it's hiring people that weren't good on Saturdays, some people would say about Josh Gaddis, is one thing, but I don't know. I'm not overly surprised at how this season went. Even though I expected better, for us to have a really crappy season and then now be into the thick of recruiting, and now we're starting to kill it. We're starting to do really well, starting to get some big recruits. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. I think I'm with you on that. I looked at it in a way, and I'm trying to remember what Ben of 21 thought, right? Like, it was like I was hyped that we got Mario, but I was like, I had those thoughts too. I was like, damn, but Saturdays,
Yeah.
right? Like there's like that quiet whisper in the back where you're like, yo, Saturdays though, man.
Yep.
And the way he hired his coaches, I was like, have these guys ever worked together before? Like, what's the chemistry gonna be like? Right?
Yeah.
I was like, because he hired all of them individually, except like, oh, Jamila Dye is available, and this, and we stole Kevin Steele from Maryland, and all this stuff. I was like, okay, how's this gonna work? I was like, okay, I mean, we'll see. Like, these are all professionals. You know what I mean? And then the season starts, and I was like, ah, shit. Like from jump, I was like, okay, this is gonna be rough.
Yeah,
and I didn't expect, right? Like, fast forwarding into the beginning, what I didn't expect was a lack of response and adjustments from either side of the ball. Like, and not just coordinators, not just coaches, right? It's also the players. And I told Joe about it. It was like, at no point nobody responded. Everybody just goes, oh well, we're gonna clean house anyway. Who cares? Let's move on. I was like, hey bro, you can't, like, we're a thirsty, you know what I mean? We're thirsty for winning. You can't just be like, oh, let's just chop up the season and go kill it in recruiting in the offseason.
Right.
I was like, bro, I needed to see some kind of development. And the only development I saw was one player in Cam Kitchens and like LT sparingly. You know what I mean? It was a hard season, man. It was.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was embarrassing at times.
For sure. One thing that keeps me grounded though is like a lot of the hype from last season was, I mean, we had a great offseason, right? We stole Dan Radakovich from Clemson. We announced our incredible football facility that's gonna, go on campus. I think it's gonna take up the track and field space and that, near the parking garage by Green Tree. So that's gonna go in. Obviously the money that's being pumped into the program, whether it's John Ruiz or getting a piece of Health. That's a big deal. But if you think about those things, it's like, what's the immediate benefit of an influx of cash? Like, cash doesn't win you football games. An athletic director doesn't win you football games. A football facility that doesn't even exist yet doesn't win you football games. And so when you try to think of it in a more rational sense, like, we were building the foundation for a football program. We weren't building the football program yet last season, right? We were laying the footings. Yeah. We were getting everything set for a powerhouse to be built on top of that. But, when you really look at it, like, the coaching staff is one thing, but the rest of the hype from last offseason is not, it wasn't things that immediately translate to good football.
True. Because it wasn't. I think a lot. I think I'm with you on like the 8.5 going into the offseason, like what you said. Like, okay, we were 7-5, one more win, maybe squeak out another win. Isn't that hard to fathom or believe, especially with the schedule the way it was? Yeah. But I think for a lot of people, and I'm not one of them, right? Like, I didn't overhype my team's talent level. Like, I knew who they were. Like, in the last 20 years, I know who they've been. They're a team, you know what I mean? Like, through different iterations and all this, they're a team that doesn't respond well to adversity for whatever reason, right? Like, that's been carried over from class to class to class to class.
Yep, it's a theme.
So I know that, it's a theme. Like, I think Manny Navarro and Gabby Urrutia from 24/7, like, if you lose one game at the Miami, you're gonna lose two.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it was never like a one loss. This stops right here. Let's respond. And it hasn't happened. Right. So when I was like, man, this team is, even when they were 10-3, right? That great season that they had when it started 10-0, they lost one and then got blown out their next three. And that 10-0 was a bounce here, a bounce there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, and that's how it's kind of been. It's like we miss a field goal here, we make a field goal. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been like, it hasn't been a consistent thing. So I was like, you got to scrap this whole thing. Like, that was my thought going into the season. So I was like, I thought he would have done it last season, and it felt like throughout the season he just called like basic defenses and basic offenses to see who the players who would just execute that. Who, you know what I mean? Like it was basically every Saturday was just I'm purely game evaluating. I'm purely player evaluation. That's it. And these are the guys that'll be here. These are the guys that are going to leave.
Yeah.
Which for us as fans sucks because it's like so we're just running like this is hard to watch. Like you can't get a yard. You can't beat these lower level teams. Like we're just running the same. It was so hard to watch, man. And it was glad it's over. But dude, this recruiting is. I don't even know how to like react to it. Like I'm trying to like remind myself, hey, but we were 5-7, right? Like we were 5-7. Like it's so crazy.
Yeah, it was hard. Thankfully for me, I actually caught a lot of flack for this on Twitter. But our first 2 games, I'm trying to think of what teams they were. I know Bethune-Cookman was one of them, and
Southern Mississippi, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Southern Miss.
I think
Southern
you're right.
Miss.
And I came away from those 2 games being like, oh, we're not a good football team. And, I was kind of public about that. Even though we won, we blew both those teams out. But I was just like, it was way too hard. Like we made those games look way too hard for the competition. Like we're not good. Yeah. I even said Florida was better than us at that point. And, people were really upset. And, and so when we lost to Middle Tennessee State, like I tuned out because I saw it coming. I didn't think we'd lose to Middle Tennessee. I didn't think we were that bad by no means. But when we lost, then it was like, oh, okay, like I'm turning this, I'm tuning out for this season. I did watch every game. But
I watched every game, but it wasn't like as emotionally invested, right? Like it was just like, okay, I gotta watch because this is my team, but
yeah, honestly, by the end of the season, because I didn't care at all. I mean, obviously, I wanted the Canes to win, but I just kind of understood that it didn't really matter, because we were bad. Like, what's the difference between 5-7 and 6-6? I mean, obviously, a bowl game, but both are trash seasons for Miami, right? So it was actually just kind of nice to watch with no expectations and. I actually became a fan because I love the color orange. I love the logo, the colors, the team. And, it was just cool to I just love seeing the logo, the helmets on TV, man. Like it was cool to have that.
It's nothing like it.
Yeah. It was cool to have that be my takeaway from the game is like, I didn't even care what happened in the game. I didn't care about the score. It was just like, man, I love seeing those white helmets with that orange and green on it, dude.
There was nothing. You know what I liked. What I liked too towards the end of the season that he didn't do the alternate uniforms. He just kept them with the with their standard stuff. It was like there's no reason for an alternate uniform this season. So let's just wear this and move on. Yeah, it was like I watched every game and most games were bad losses and late losses and all these different things. I was just like, but there was a part where I was like, I'm looking at it, I was like, I wonder how many of these guys aren't going to be here next year. Right, like where I stopped, as like especially delving more into Twitter and Kane's Twitter, especially, and seeing how people look at it and the overreactions to every single play and all that stuff. Was like, dude, like what you got to start looking at it. And what you said was right earlier. It was like, this is the foundation of a football program. Like we can't carry over to like we got to get past especially us old heads, right? We got to get past like 2001 isn't happening again.
Yeah,
that takes time to build that. Like you have to get recruiting classes on top of recruiting classes on top of recruiting classes of like-minded kids, right? That have that want to and have that desire. So it takes time to build that. It was like it was the first time and hoping that the plan that Mario has, right? Because that's what all we have is like hoping the plan that Mario has comes to fruition. But you're going through that 13-week experience because of the bye week, 7 losses, 5 straight home losses. And you're just like, okay, I'm like, how is recruiting going to be any better? Yeah. And then Mario's loafers, bro. Like, Jordan, you're a guy that like follows this deeper than I do, right? Like I'm getting better at it, dude. But like, just I'm gonna ask you like the simple how, like, just how? I don't know. So like, dude, I don't. My brain doesn't. I got nothing. Like. I'm talking shit to people on Twitter, and while I'm saying, I was like, dude, I don't know how we're playing these guys. Like, I have no idea. I don't know what the message is. I don't nothing.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we paid Mario, though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because out of the gate, we all knew that he had problems on Saturdays. Like watching Oregon collapse at the end of last season, it probably had something
Mhm.
to do with the Miami job being open. That's fine, but
Mhm.
like even like Mario is not an elite coach on Saturday, but he is an
No.
elite coach every other day of the week and all off season.
Yes.
He is. He's elite.
Yeah.
There's, I mean,
Yeah.
you'd be hard pressed to find 3 or 4 guys better than him when it comes to
Mhm.
the off season.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're getting our money's worth right now, and good. You know, it makes sense when you think about this season in the sense of like Mario had to e- essentially like think of it like a piece of real estate, right? He came into the
Yeah.
Hurricanes and we were a worn out, burnt out house, and he had to rip it down to the studs, pull out all the drywall,
Yeah.
all the flooring, and
Yeah.
I thought that was last year, but it's this year, and that's I think
Yeah.
we were wrong. We thought
Yeah.
like he came in, he changed all the coaches, there was a lot of turnover. He brought some of his guys in and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But that wasn't ripping it down to the studs. That's this off season.
No.
We have 17 kids in the
Yep.
portal right now. We're bringing in a
Mhm.
ton of recruits. Like, who knows what the coaching staff is going to look like by March. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm excited
Dude,
though. I
like,
mean, we're getting our money's worth right now, and
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. I've never, and I'm trying to think of it. I was like, I can't remember the last time it was like this because, like, I was telling Joe, like, and I tell people, was like, dude, we're talking to people, we're in the room with players that other coaches didn't even go in the building with, didn't visit them. They
Mhm.
weren't takes, and now are all Americans and Camp Kitchens.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like there was such a disconnect that like Mario has to fix all of that. Like I don't think
yeah,
we truly understood what,
yeah,
because that's what Mario's great at, right? Like those relationships
yep,
and world building in a way, and like and building that culture that he wants. Might have his Saturday struggles. Hopefully he brings, you know what I'm saying, like maybe bringing another head coach to kind of help him with that. And he recognize, I think Mario also recognizes his weaknesses.
yeah,
That's why he recruits so hard. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, look, my Saturday struggles might be a little bit less if I have 4 levels of 5 stars and 4 stars. You know what I mean? Like
I
you don't
yeah,
have to coach as hard when everybody's great. You know what I'm saying? So if that's
yeah.
what, but like I'm looking,
I
I'm looking at, I'm like, to be in the conversation with like a Samson, a Kunlo, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, a Francis might go when like I didn't know these weren't guys that any administration before got or
Yeah,
even talked to.
yep.
You
I
know what
mean,
I'm
to get a
saying?
5-star tackle from IMG, like, when was the
Yeah.
last time that happened? When was the last time we got a 5-star
I
from
have
IMG? Like, you know, that doesn't
no idea.
happen very
Yeah,
often.
I have
So,
no.
not for the
Well, when
Canes,
was the last
anyways.
time we
That
got multiple 5 stars? When was the last
yeah,
time we got multiple 5 stars?
yeah,
That wait, that let's caveat multiple 5 stars that stay 5 stars and don't get dropped to a 4 star. All of a sudden,
yeah,
because a new composite ranking comes out, and the guy that was a
yeah,
5 star his whole time is now a 4. All right,
yeah,
no conspiracy theories here. But
yeah.
dude,
Right.
like, so, what we got 2 days because Samson commits or doesn't commit. You know what I'm saying? Drops
Yeah,
his announcement
yeah,
on Friday, right, on the 16th. But I
yeah.
also heard, I also saw something that it was tomorrow.
I
Like,
don't know. I thought it
so
was
I'm
Thursday or Friday, but I'm not sure.
because I
So
saw something from Thayer Athletics, which is this school, there's another academy, said that they got a big announcement tomorrow at 4:30. So I was like, is that
yeah,
the Samson thing? Like, look, I'm not a person that lives or die with any specific commitment. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because you never know who's gonna pan out, yada yada yada.
yeah,
But like, just to be in the conversation with the level of like to be in the conversation just with an Alabama, right?
yeah,
And get guys like that, like a Jaleel Skinner last year. Like we forget
yeah,
that we had what the 45th ranked class last year before Mario came in and picked
yeah,
up like 6 or 7 recruits and turned us into a top 15 class. Like
yep,
this is what he does. So
yeah,
just kind of hope for it, man. And
yeah,
last thing, one thing you said, we thought it was last year because of all the portal guys coming and all that. I think he's doing it different this year. That's why he hasn't taken, like, we hear all these Porto guys coming and visiting and all this stuff. I think he's being more mindful in getting recruits and then the Porto guys secondary to fill the holes after. I thought he went too hard on Porto guys last year, which left us with too many Porto guys and possibly not enough scholarships for the young guys. So that's why you haven't seen like Seven McGee didn't commit to us, or the only one is an obvious take is Javion Cohen, right? That's without question. Duh. But yeah, man, I think he's doing it different this year. So what do you think?
Yeah, and I think it's the right approach. Speaking of Mario learning from his mistakes, one of my worries with him is that he seems to enjoy meddling on offense when it comes to scheme. And this is a point that I've brought up a few times, is like, if you remember early 2010s, 2007 to like 2013, Nick Saban used to run that single back offense, back in the AJ McCarron days, just handing the ball off to five-star running backs behind. Yeah. And
very easy.
Yeah. But when Lane Kiffin came around, Lane got him to use the spread to modernize his offense. And now Alabama, if anything, they're an offensive powerhouse. Like, they'll put up points. They're not going to beat you 14-6 anymore. They're going to beat you 48 to, whatever. So I hope that Mario will be smart enough to like be open to modernization when it comes to offense. I worry that we're going to be stuck running the same playbook as Iowa for his whole tenure here.
Oh, please don't say stuff like that out loud. That's so.
I'm genuinely worried about it. And I think Mario needs his version of Lane Kiffin. He needs a guy to come in here and be like, okay, but we could score 40 points. Like, cool, we have a good defense, but why score 14 when we can score 40? Like
I think, I'm with you on that. I think Mario, because the offensive line mindset, like he just wants to, offensive line push the run. You want to bully the other team. I don't think that's realistic here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's realistic, not just here, but like that offense doesn't. We have to run. I don't know. Like, look at Ohio State, right? For example, they run a more balanced offense. You know what I'm saying? Most teams run 50-50. Michigan, they do a 50-50, but you make it look better. Like with the offense, I don't like. We and Joe go back and forth on this all the time. Like, I don't know how to really evaluate it. Like, were we really that poorly coached, or that bad talent wise, or were we really solid talent? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like the chicken or the egg. I don't know how to evaluate Josh Gaddis, right? So I don't know. I'm always on the fence, or I'm one side or the other as to what should happen with Josh Gaddis, because I think that's the kind of game that Mario wants to run.
Yeah. But
it's also the kind of offense that made him beat Ohio State the year before. You know what I'm saying? That year after they got drugged by Utah. Yeah. So I don't know how the execution works with that. I think the issue with the offense this past year was there was no connection between the coaches and the players, right? Like, I think the coaches came in with like tough love 100% of the time. Like, you hear all the reports of like the bad mouthing, you know what I'm saying? Like, saying they're sorry and all this stuff, and they never responded to it. And the coaches just kept pushing that. So I thought that's why so many performances were so bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to evaluate it. And I hope you're wrong that he pushes that kind of offense. That style can work if it's executed properly. I just don't know if the guy who's trying to execute it is the guy that we need to execute it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, that style can work. A version of that can be a little bit better, and just hope that Mario learns to be more of a program builder and not a micromanager on Saturdays. But it could be, you know what I mean? It's got to be that give and take.
Yeah, well, so one of the ideas that I've been toying with all year, just from like a philosophical approach, I'm not quite sure how I feel about everything, but I've kind of been juxtaposing the idea of like X's and O's coaches versus culture coaches, right? The difference between Lincoln Riley and Mario, right? Mario's a guy that He wants to come in and he wants to establish an identity, a culture as a team. And it's like, if you don't live by these principles, if you don't live with this level of discipline, then here's the door. And that's how we're going to win football teams, is cohesiveness, willpower, effort, drive, discipline, that type of stuff. Whereas Lincoln Riley, Lane Kiffin, all these guys, it's kind of the new wave, the Josh Heupel. Like, these guys we're going to beat you in chess every week. And it doesn't matter the players we have, doesn't matter if we're missing our king or queen or rooks, our knights, our pawns, whatever. Doesn't matter what pieces we have. I'm going to beat you in chess every single week with my play calling, with my scheme. I'm going to attack your weaknesses. And I think that type of philosophy is a more immediate impact. Whereas Mario's, I think it has staying power. I mean, if you look, that's kind of the Alabama model, the Georgia model. So, I mean, clearly it wins, but how many teams are having success that way versus if you just look at the top 20, how many teams are that style versus how many teams are the X's and O's style?
Okay.
And I think,
is why. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, I think more people are having success with the X's and O's, in my opinion. Now, granted, I think the ultimate success in winning championships is coming with the discipline and the stacking culture. Talent. Yeah, the culture. And so that's kind of why I don't know what to think about it. It's like you see more teams have success one way, but then you see the teams that win do it a different way.
Jordan, listen, man, this is why I love doing podcasts with just like an outline of what to say. You know what I mean? Like the topics and just kind of freestyling, because you brought up a great question, man. I love that question. I think we have to. The Lincoln Riley's is amazing. Look what he did at USC this year, right? Like one play away. Like, well, besides the second half, got destroyed by Utah, because that's just what Kyle Whittingham does, right? Like the fact that Kyle Whittingham is still there, just because he's like an older coach, is crazy. I mean, the guy's a back-to-back Pac-12 champion, but
culture guy.
I think, culture guy. Again, a culture guy. But it's not just a culture guy. It's the guys he gets look a certain way, right? Like that's the Alabama and the Georgia thing. Like, look at Alabama. You said it, like from 2007 to 2013. Agent McCarron could. The only thing I remember about Agent McCarron, they would always show his beautiful girlfriend and future wife in the stands, because that's all CBS camera guys would show. Hey guys, this is his wife, and then Brent Musburger and those guys would make comments. Like, it was like, all right, bro, we get it. That's all I remember about Agent McCarron.
That's 80% of his game film from college. That's all he did well.
That's it, dude. That was the whole thing. It was the craziest thing. I was like, all right, man, can we get back to the play? We get it. But the X's and O's looks good, and it puts up a lot of points, right? But the top two teams are Georgia and Alabama with the culture. Right? Like, you see, I don't know how to put the other two. Like, TCU's is an X and O's team, right? Like, you know what? We're gonna get to see it in this college football playoff, because Michigan, I'll put Michigan in that culture with Jim Harbaugh, right?
Yeah.
So Michigan and TCU is gonna be culture versus X's and O's. We get to see it right then and there. I think Georgia, Ohio State is culture versus X's and O's.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean? Like, Ohio State's that weird team in there, though, like, where they're like slightly culture and X's and O's, but they also have a shit ton of 5 stars. So like it's you know what I mean? It could go either way.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to build, and I don't know if he's going to be able to. Like, I'm not sitting here and be like, oh, he's Nick Saban or he's Kirby Smart. Like, that's not what I'm doing. But like, I think he's trying to build that model.
Yeah.
Because then it's just then it's your second and your third string that are sophomores and freshmen, offensive lineman and defensive tackle, are going to look exactly the same. There will never be that level of drop off, which is why we always saw James Williams starting, or because there was nobody to push for that spot. Why we always saw this person starting or that person starting, you know what I mean? Because there's no depth. Like, you saw the drop off.
Yeah.
You saw the difference in quality of player from a Wesley Bissaint, that's a freshman, to a Corey Flagg. Wesley Bissaint, true freshman, looked way better and way faster and way more skilled. No disrespect to that Corey Flagg ever has.
Yeah.
Like on his best day.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like and that's just size, and that's what Mario's getting 7 of those guys coming in. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's a culture and it's a look that Mario wants. And I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, because I would have loved to have been USC this year, putting up 60. You know what I'm saying? Putting up 60, putting up 65 points and balling out. Like, oh, where the hell was this? Would have been amazing. But I don't know what's the staying power. You know what I'm saying? Like, Lincoln Riley didn't win a lot. If I'm wrong, he didn't win a national championship at Oklahoma. Right?
Correct.
Like
I don't think he ever won a playoff game either. I think they lost every playoff game.
No, they got blown out. Like every time they went, they got completely blown out. So it goes back and forth, right? Like it looks great, but the staying power is that kind of thing, the culture. Like winning championships. Looking good and winning championships are two different things.
Yeah, I agree. And a theme from the culture programs and so, you know, I think we should pay attention with Miami, because if we get good, this is how it's going to happen. Is if you watch Clemson, like the rise of Clemson over the last decade, I mean, think of it for like, there was probably a 6-year span where they were a verb and it wasn't a good one, where Clemsoning, right? It's where you went 10-0 and then, you know, you lost to NC State in overtime and shot yourself in the foot, you know? And, but the thing was, they won 10 games a year for like 6 years straight before they won anything important, right? Now I'm talking about like the Taj Boyd teams and the, you know,
Taj Boyd,
and then the kid that ended up transferring to Missouri after Trevor Lawrence stole his job. I can't think of his name.
Bryce, wasn't it like Blake Bryce or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about, but had like a pick. He played like the second half of Trevor Lawrence injured game, and then just never played there again. Like, he just walked off into the sunset and been in like 4 schools since.
Yeah, but you know, so they it's kind of levels, you know, like you need to get to a spot where it's like, oh, now we're winning the ACC every year, but we've been losing to good teams in the Orange Bowl, you know, and then we get to the thing, okay, now we just beat a good team in the Orange Bowl, and then 2 years later, it's like, oh, now we're making the playoff, but we're getting our teeth kicked in the first round, and then, you know, elevating ourselves to like, okay, now we just won a championship, but it's 6 or 7 years down the road from now.
Right.
It's levels, man. I mean, that happened with Georgia. Like, look at Jake Fromm, had a great career at Georgia, but they had a ceiling, dude.
Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia won. Mark Richt won every year 10 games.
Yeah.
But they just never beat the teams that they needed to be in that serious conversation. Yeah, man, like the positive side and the positive side of me wants to be like, I'm not saying in 3 years, right? But like, start being in that conversation. I don't know what the staff turnover is going to be like, because it's not just firing coaches. Coaches leave, they get better job offers. I mean, better money. We saw it last year with T-Rob. T-Rob was going to be part of the staff. Alabama offered him more money. That's why we got Jamil Adai. So I don't know what the future holds with that, right? Like, as far as where we're going to be. But this team and this mentality, they have to learn how to win, right? Like, they have to learn how to like respond to adversity. Like, that's what I'm looking as far as like projecting into next season. Like, I think look, we're going to be a very young team next year, like a very, very young team, and that's going to come with some lessons and hopefully some responses. But I love what I'm hearing from the kids. Like, I was listening to Ray Joseph, because he was at an award show yesterday when Ruben Bain committed, and they're like, look, we're coming in there to take jobs. Like, we're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're coming in there, we're coming in to knock heads off. Like, we're not coming in here to mess around. So just hearing that, like, so openly, right? Like, I don't know if it's the new media or any of that, but like, they're calling out the entire team. Like, yo, man, I'm coming for your spot. Like, what are you gonna do about it? You know, it starts with that starts the culture, and there's gonna be some infighting, there's gonna be some beef because older guys don't want to hear that and all that stuff. But it was like, hey, bro, the portal's right there, bro. The portal is going to be open after spring, and you can bounce. Like, this is a business now.
Yep.
You know?
And I think Mario's response to, and I want to treat it with the level of sensitivity because of the human factor. But when you had
Of
parents
course.
starting to get involved, and Mario's
Yeah.
response was like, "Come pick up your kids," like
Yeah.
I think that's a warning shot to the roster. It's like you have these new
Yeah.
freshmen coming in that want your job, and he's saying like, if you complain about it, or if you're out, if you're not willing to compete for your job, then here's the door, and also you're going to be publicly ridiculed because everyone knows why you're leaving now. So,
Yeah. Well, that response, I think that response was warranted because you can't just be the coach as a pushover, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody is so publicly calling you out and calling your staff out.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like when this, for example, like when this pod grows and we have multiple guests and it becomes like a whole brand and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Projecting positive stuff and manifesting that. It was like, I don't want anybody coming after my people. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hey man, you can't be out here tweeting that you got a big stick. What you tweeting violence to my guys? Like, come get your kid then. Like, let's come get your kid season. And it's not, and I said it, and I'll always say this: the transfer portal is 100% a business deal on both sides.
Yeah.
I hope every kid that left Miami lands somewhere and continues their education, because the chances of going to the league are slim to none, period. Like to even begin with. So I hope they're able to continue their education with the free scholarship, because I think that's a big issue with me in the NCAA is like that was a negotiation and a contract between me and this university and me and this program of the NCAA. That should be, like, if they don't want to continue, that should be you know what I mean, like appreciated and evaluated such like maybe he could just stay and finish out, at least get an AA and then move on and transfer, right? Like it should be going on that way. It's a business, man. Like you're seeing the guys that are leaving to now, like John Campbell leaving, he was told. Now, look, this is a question I want to pose to you before we move on to the next topic. You think John Campbell is told to leave because a certain pancake is about to make a certain pancake tackle was about to make the commit? Like I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, because it's like, yo, like that would be crazy. But if you're starting left tackle for 12 games, it's told, hey man, thank you for your service. I mean, like, wish you the best in your future endeavors.
Yeah. So
like,
is that definite? Like I didn't know that he was asked to leave. Like is that for sure? Because I haven't been paying attention.
I mean,
as well as I should have, but
that's what the tea leaves are saying, right? Like,
okay, yeah,
and like people, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what people were saying. Like, I don't know if he was like, I don't think any player is told directly, hey, get the there's the door.
Yeah.
But it's like, look, there's not going to be, you know what I'm saying, we're moving in a different direction. You know, like everybody that listens to at some point has been fired, right? Hey, look, it's not, you know what I mean, broken up with, it's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're just headed in a different direction. We're seeing things differently.
Yeah.
And it's no shot at him. Like John Campbell, like tried his best, but John Campbell doesn't have the look that a Mario offensive line would want, right?
Yeah.
Like it took him 6 years to get to this size. There's freshmen coming in that are already bigger than him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And it is, I mean, it's risky, but thankfully for Mario, and I think in the end we'll appreciate it, but Mario got the type of contract that he could do it the right way.
Do this.
Getting was it an 8-year deal, 7-year deal, 8-year deal?
I thought it was 10 years.
Oh,
10 years, 80 million.
That's right. Yeah. 10 years, 80 million is eight per year.
He's not going anywhere. Yeah.
No, he's not. I mean, yeah, he's not getting fired until year 6 at the earliest. But think of what that allows him to do. That allows him to go to the left tackle, and I want to use all hypotheticals here because I don't know any.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know anything. Yeah, absolutely not.
And so I'm not saying specific players at all because I have no idea. But it allows him to go to an important piece, an important position, quarterback, left tackle, any of these positions, and just be like, look, you're not a fit with us. That's a huge risk. But by us giving Mario the 10-year deal, it allows him to do that, because
Yeah.
even if we get Cohen and Malagoa and Samson,
Everybody. Yep.
Okunlola, I think is how you say his name. Yeah, even if we get all
Yeah.
those guys, our offensive line can still struggle a little bit next year because
Absolutely.
Malagoa and Samson have never played a snap of college football in their lives, and so
Yeah.
they might be good immediately. They might not. Like that's just the way it works. You don't know. So
Yep.
Mario having the ability to take risks and really shape the culture of the team hopefully will be a good benefit to us.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely. And look, I'm not calling out. I'm only saying the name because it's the most recent
yeah, for
transfer. And
sure.
like I said, like I want all these kids to land somewhere.
Yeah,
But from everything I've heard and from people that I know, Mario doesn't just kick these kids out. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
he talks to them like and he finds somewhere for them to land because
yeah,
he just like he's not a cold person. Like from everything, like he's going to make sure these kids are all right. Just because it doesn't work here doesn't mean he doesn't want you to succeed somewhere
for sure.
else. You see the relationship he has with former players and
Yeah,
all that. So it's tough and it's a business, right? Like it's not. I was surprised when the portal entry of today happened. Like I was like, oh, what?
yeah,
Like I was on Sunday. I was like, oh, it'd be good to have him. You know what I mean? Maybe move him to left to interior lineman, kind of
yeah,
help the young guys come up, and like to see him go in there was like I was like, oh wow, that was kind of crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, man. So
I
it's a different world.
I don't have any inside info. I don't claim to have any inside info. Never been an insider. But
Right.
man, it seems like all signs point to us getting Samson. Like I am
Mhm.
no longer anxious about it. And even like Gators Twitter and Gators message boards, they've
Yep.
given up on him. Like
Yeah.
they all know
Yeah.
he's coming to
That's when
Miami.
that's when I calmed down. Like
Yeah,
when like because they were real talkative. It didn't last long, like Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday
yeah,
ish until like that's how I like that's my tea leaves. Like I
yeah,
see what other people share, like they're like already bashing him or like, oh, he wasn't a take anyway. So I was like, wait a second, like this is you guys saying this. So like when I
yeah,
hear from their fan bases, that's what I like. I take as like, okay, this is they have something, they know something that I don't know. So I'll take this as a positive. If he doesn't
yeah,
come, it'll be more shocking now.
yeah.
If you know what I'm saying, like
And
but also like Alabama's in his top four. Like
yeah,
Nick Saban doesn't just go like, oh, I guess we're not getting this 5-star. It's not
yeah,
what
right.
Nicky Saban does, man. He's like,
And
I want all of them.
Gabby's fantastic at his job. And
Phenomenal.
he gave the crystal ball to Samson to Miami last night, I believe.
Hmm.
And kind of his
Yep.
rhetoric throughout today has just been like, I feel really good about it. So
Yep.
that along with the Gators, feeling like they're out, I
Yeah.
I feel good about it, man. I feel pretty good.
Yeah. Because look, us as Canes fan and Canes Twitter, let's be 100% honest. We are thinking we're gonna get everybody who. How dare they not come? You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah,
sure most fan bases feel like that. How
yeah,
dare they not come to us? We got Mario's loafers and John Ruiz's NIL. We're
right.
getting you know what I'm saying, we're getting everybody. But
Yep.
realistic, like there's other people that recruit. Like Brian Hartline just came in and picked up another 5-star wide receiver.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying, from Miami. Like that's just from the same school. Like this is a battle, man. This is insane,
Yep.
dude. Like so, before we wrap up, last topic here, I'm gonna call it living rent free. Right
Okay.
now, we talked about it. We are a 5-7 football team. That's our
Yep.
record. We have to wear that like a badge of, let's call it disgrace or embarrassment, right? Like we're not
Yeah.
happy about it. The reaction from fan bases, right? Like it's insane. Like I'm not a person that goes back and forth. I'm doing it today just because I was bored. But
Yeah.
I don't care what I've never cared what other fan bases do. I've
Yeah.
only ever cared about the U. That's it. Like my I don't watch other college football games. I might, you know what I mean? Like I might watch a couple highlights, but I don't go out of my way to do that. That's just I watch my team and my team only.
Yeah.
Have you been a Utah guy? Because Miami, we always feel like everybody's against us, right? Like
Yeah.
growing up in Miami and being in the city, do you notice that as well, or is that just like the Miami biased eyes of like people going out of the way, like, oh, it wasn't a take anyway. Oh, he was supposed to go there anyway because his family's there with Ruben
Yeah.
Bain. I was like, dude, I can't name a player on your recruiting list. Like, not one. I don't care.
So that's a complex answer. I think for the University of Miami, it is present. But like extending past that, because I agree. I see that, I talk to a lot of Heat fans. I'm a huge NBA fan, Utah Jazz fan.
Right.
And because of the makeup of my Twitter timeline, I, mostly talk hoops with Heat fans these days on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And Heat fans kind of have the same persecution complex where it's like, the refs hate the Heat. Everyone hates the Heat. Everyone's trying to screw the Heat.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? like LeBron James came to play for you guys,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That died then. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, everyone wants, like, Miami is the one non-traditional powerhouse that can always attract big talent. And it's because the weather's great. I know it can get really hot in Miami in the summer, and the weather isn't necessarily great for the summer, but like it is paradise, right? And when you're making tens of millions of dollars as a pro athlete, I think, if I had $10 million, Miami would be the first place that I'd buy my second home. I can tell you that. Like I might not choose to have my primary residence there, but if I'm buying a second mansion, it's going to be in South Florida because it is paradise, right?
Yeah.
So
it's true.
Yeah, I don't know. But people do, like, I think the rivals or the 247 thing where people drop rankings after kids commit to Miami, that's 100% true. I do think that there is some type of national bias of, and you could get into all levels of how politically and sociopolitically charged it is, but like kind of the association of Miami with being convicts, that's 100% real. Like, so
that perception of Miami.
The perception of Miami is that it's, I guess I'll just let the Catholics versus convicts thing sum it up. Like, people do think that, and it's unfortunate because, I think we went through that with the 2017 or 2018 team. I think it was the 2017 team when we played Notre Dame.
Team.
And it's like there was a lot of really good kids on the roster that were being called convicts, and they seemed hurt by it, and for good reason. They're like, I'm a good kid, like I'm an upstanding member of society.
Athlete.
Like,
a private school. It's
making
always
grades.
Making grades at a private school, and I'm gonna have a degree from from a really good university. Like, how am I a convict? And it is the Miami bias, right? Like first of all, let's starting with the Miami Heat thing. That's ridiculous. Those are irrational fans. Like, and I'm a Heat fan. Like, we got championships, bro. Like, let's calm down there. You know what I mean? Like, yes, there'll be games when you're reffed a little differently. That's just a home and road NBA game. That's all that is. There's no Jimmy Butler missing that three wasn't because the ref hates us. You know what I mean? Like, that's not real life.
Well,
but with the Miami thing, 2017, you saw it, right? Like, you saw the commentary and the reaction to a Notre Dame game. It, like, that sentiment still, 40 years later, still resonated. The Catholic versus convict thing. That's why you had Braxton Berrios doing the celebration with like acting like he was getting handcuffed. Like, that's never made sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. What were you gonna say, Jay?
Well, I was just going to touch on your NBA point. Is there's only like 6 teams in the NBA where superstars want to play there, and you guys, like Miami Heat, are like one of those 6 teams. So it does make me laugh, as a Jazz fan, where we have role players who say, "No, I don't want to play there. I don't care if they're going to give me $10 million," which they're wrong because Utah's a great place to live. But
it's fantastic. Yeah,
to each
pictures
their
are
own,
amazing.
Right? To each their own, right? It's definitely more of a family environment here. But I'm not a nightclub guy. I highly doubt that nightclubs are any good here.
If if you're a young athletic millionaire, that's probably why, right? Like
Yeah,
it's like the nightlife. It was like I'm a single guy. I have a bunch
yeah,
of millions of dollars. I don't know if this is
yeah,
this is just that simple. It's not like, oh, we don't like Utah. It's like I want to be where the women are. If you're a
yeah,
millionaire, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
that's basically that whole perspective with it.
yeah. I mean, Mike Conley loves it here, but the first thing he talks about is like, my kids love their school. He's like,
Exactly.
I'm keeping my kids in school here in Utah, even if I get traded.
Exactly.
So
That's a sound way of looking at it. It was like, wait, my kids are happy. So yeah, if you have a family, it makes all the sense in the world.
yeah,
If you're single, you know what I mean? There's a bunch of places like that. But
yeah,
yeah, man, that whole thing, dude, that 24/7 ranking stuff is crazy to me though, man.
yeah,
Like the commentary of like other fan bases, rivalry and smoke talk or whatever.
yeah,
But that stuff is so weird. It's like Jaden Wayne literally went from like a 5-star committed 4-star,
yeah.
right? Cormani McClain, right? five
Dropped
star
to
was the
9.
number 2 player all year. Now he's ninth, bro.
Yeah,
Somehow Arch Manning, that went 8 for 21 with 96 yards in his final high school game, is still the number 1 player in the nation. I'm not saying Cormani should be number 1, right? Like that, but there's better quarterbacks out there that are, you know what I'm saying? There's better players out
yeah,
there that should be at that number 1 spot. You can't go 8 for 21 with 96 yards and lose by
yeah,
36 points and still be considered the number 1 player in the nation.
yeah,
Like that doesn't make sense to me.
yeah, yeah. I think part of it is just that people have kind of seen what Miami can be. I mean, we're the recruiting hotbed of the
Yeah.
country. I mean, I'm saying we like I'm from there. I'm just a
Yeah,
Canes fan.
but hey, you're a fan. Like this,
Yeah, yeah,
hey, you internalize it, man. It's
yeah,
part of it. Yeah, it is
yeah.
we.
South Florida is the recruiting bed. Like that's an NFL factory. It is the NFL
Yeah.
factory, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just the everything that goes into what made Miami so great in the 80s and 90s, I think is always on other people's minds. It's a sleeping giant.
Yeah.
And I think to some extent, Miami being great again feels like an inevitability to everybody.
Yeah.
And whether it's right or wrong, sometimes I have my doubts. Like all the talent that gets put out, the money, the prestige, the hype, everything that swirls around the rhetoric that swirls around the Miami Hurricanes makes it seem like another dynasty is inevitable. And I
Yeah.
think that really, really scares people.
Yeah.
And in the sense of whenever we do something good, we're rent free up here,
Yeah. Yeah.
like what the segment is talking about. It's we get 3 5-stars and then people, it's like they're on the defensive. They're looking for
Yeah.
a counterpunch
Mm-hmm.
because they know that like this could turn into something very bad for their favorite team very
Yeah.
quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Man, Jay, I think that's the perfect way to end this, man. I think you summed it up perfectly because I always want to say, like, I have Miami glasses on all the time with this team. This is my number 1 team
Yeah.
across all sports. I mean, I'm really into European soccer and stuff like that, but this is my number 1 team across all sports. This is the team I live and die on. So when you're not an outsider like that doesn't live locally and has that perspective. It does feel like that. There's always been that, like, why for the last 20 years, like, why aren't we better? How are
Yeah.
we this bad? How are we failing? Look at
Yeah.
who's here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's always felt like we're right on the cusp, but like it just never, like, the stars, be it 5 or 4, line up enough to
Yeah.
get this right. So just look, Saturday or Friday or Thursday or Friday, whenever Samson announces it, and if he puts on the U hat or whatever, however he approaches it, if it's just a graphic with a ton of pancakes in the shape of a U, which would
Yeah.
be honestly genius, right? If you do
Yeah.
it like that, that would be genius. Just a whole bunch of U pancakes. It would be
Yeah.
amazing to see, but to be a top 5, 6, possibly 3 class, if
Yeah.
Samson commits, after this season gives us hope for the future. But Ted Lasso says it's the hope that kills you.
Yeah.
So we just have to weigh the options, man, and hope for the best. Jordan, I thank you so much. Once again, man, let the people know where they can find you and how to support About the Fans. Let them know.
Yeah. So please check out aboutthefans.com, or you can find us on Twitter at aboutthefans_. We have all kinds of good stickers, T-shirts. I'm wearing all kinds of swag right now from About the Fans. So, Canes fans will love it. All of our stuff is kind of geared towards Canes fans. We're starting to do some stuff that Dolphins fans will enjoy as well. There's a few Heat things on there as well. So yeah, just check it out. AB, he's one of my best friends. He's my partner in this, and he does all the design work, and man, what an artist. So just check out our website, and and thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Hey man, whenever you want to come on, man, door is always open. All right, guys, that's enough of us. We're out of here. Peace.